SMART Cardiff is Cardiff Council's Smart City Roadmap, published in January 2020. It's a non-statutory draft document that considers the social, political and technical components of what constitutes a smart city. It's the first time that the Council's ambition for Cardiff to become smart has been compiled into a single publication. Smart is not a static state, but a process, it quotes. But of course, this misses the fact that to be truly smart, SMART has to include a corrective feedback mechanism allowing the system to respond intelligently and develop dynamically. Otherwise, you're simply left with the misuse of the term, as in UK smart motorways. The report acknowledges that, to be successful, a smart city is not one imposed from above, but one that has to develop in cooperation with a wide variety of stakeholders who have an interest in the modern city. It repeatedly refers in particular to three broad constituencies who live, work and visit the city. It acknowledges that there are lessons to be learned from failed top-down projects of the past, although these may not have just been failed smart projects. High-profile, pioneering, successful local examples promoted in the report are the widespread adoption of advanced street lighting, the city-wide monitoring and control of parking, and the Next Bike bicycle hire scheme. Whilst commendable, all three of these are globally available commercial products, involving little or no local innovation. There are obviously many more simple information and control systems around, but one with a particularly high profile would be the annunciators in bus shelters and accompanying apps that map live bus location. A glimpse into the life of how difficult the role of the council can be and the task of keeping the local populace happy may be gained from a brief inspection of some of the responses received from the general public. One online feedback complaint is that the improved lighting is now too bright. Perhaps on the Queen's demise, all street lighting could be lowered in tribute to those seen on her accession in the 50s, as a demonstration of how good the current low-power technology really is. On restoration, perhaps, each neighbourhood could be handed democratic control over their own lighting levels. This may expose how central control may be of great benefit, but I digress. The report recognises that to be truly successful, the council has to engage, perhaps more than ever before, with the local population. This is not just in this way the process becomes exciting, nimble and innovative, but that it requires the collective agreement of the population to weave into the fabric of the day-to-day life further sensors and surveillance equipment that could be resented as an intrusion. Societies are now only waking up to the full implications of the full cost of using apparently free online facilities and realising that the charge is the cost of personal privacy and mass observation. The social aspects of the information society will be at the centre of any council programme. Profiling is the topic of tonight's Moral Maze programme on Radio 4. And our local meeting of 2009 discussing how smart is Cardiff rapidly descended from a technical discussion into a far more heated debate about the ownership of data. The House of Lords is also debating the injurious problems of incorrect personal data management in the NHS at the time of this recording. More close to home, Dr. Ed Bridges, a former excellent local councillor, recently took South Wales Police to court over their use of facial recognition software in the city centre. Conversely, and pleasingly, the report mentions open data and the council's intention to provide free access to the large and growing anonymised data that it holds. It could be argued that this attitude is a consequence of the unrecognised and generally unacknowledged boost to the global economy and global well-being of open source software. The single main example here would be Linux, with a particular local example mentioned later. The report mentions the vast amounts of council data and how it may be manipulated, visualised and released in a managed way. Security and anonymity in data handling are vital, but the important interface is here, where the raw grist of data is milled to produce information. A final pleasing nod to openness is the use of the term non-proprietary. Even as an open source advocate, this is sometimes difficult to achieve. This report, along with all others of its type, has to address common global problems at a local level. It mentions the rapid growth in population, labour market, the technology base, the growing energy and environmental challenges, along with the accompanying demands placed on local services. Cardiff is at the centre of the Cardiff Capital Regional City deal, centred on the long-awaited boost to public transport. It's a pity it did not take the opportunity to mention the term transport as a service, as a provocative and thought-provoking notion. Otherwise, the report does a good job in aligning the challenges and opportunities that technology can tackle, defining the general vision and proposed approaches to be adopted in key areas. Continual nudging now means that it's acceptable to replace the word problem with challenge. But in a world where we're promoting a strong local presence, we should resist the inevitable push of puerile, pseudo-passion American management speak and not adopt terms like mission. There are 5 missions specified, which I hope are not listed in any priority. These are a collaborative city, a data-driven city, a connected city, a mobile and sustainable city, and a healthy city. The final section of the report divides each general mission into particular headings with an indicative timeline for each to form a grid. In order to test this presentation, we will now apply a local project to examine the ways in which an existing group may be usefully applied to help in each sector. We know what an accolade it is to be described as ticking all of the boxes, especially in official circles. A description of the project will be provided before we begin ticking. For several years, we have promoted the use of an advanced radio communications network that will cover Cardiff and its surrounding region. It's a low-power technology that's used to connect things to the internet anywhere around the city. It forms an important backbone into the world of the Internet of Things, IoT as it's known. It's based on a project begun in Amsterdam called the Things Network. This was a groundbreaking idea that went viral and is now available all around the world. It was initially announced here in Cardiff in July 2017 and uses techniques named LoRa and LoRaWAN in a system that's technically superior to any form of 5G when applied to long-range low-power IoT. Importantly, it's open, standards-based, uses deregulated license-exempt radio bands, and is free to use. It's also supported by a growing and educated community. This video was published at the time and explains in more detail how it could benefit local businesses, education and innovators. The project was based and carries the same name of Arwain of a similar citywide radio system constructed more than a decade earlier in 2001. Consider now how this idea of 2017, along with other local experience and assets, ticks the boxes in the report's grid. Mission 1. Collaborative City. 1. Collaborate and explore better ways to engage with the city. Our project is not the direct target of this first section, but it may be used to help promote the general thrust of the report. We've already tweeted, blogged and otherwise published details of this initiative and included it in our networking sessions. It would be good to include a presentation at one of our forthcoming sessions too. Tick. 2 is out of scope. 3. Practical workshops and hackathons have already been run on a number of topics. Stepping and repeating this is relatively simple and very rewarding. We have run Kojos and the first Raspberry Pi Jam session in Cardiff. In fact, we ran a full all-day Linux session for the public and staff at Atlantic Wharf in 2001. Tick. 4. Hopefully this will promote Arwain, the Things Network. Tick. An early hurdle we failed to clear at our initial conversations at County Hall involved the term business case. So this receives a tick. Employee engagement. This is strictly outside the scope too, but our project and experience could be employed usefully and we would be willing to help. Mission 1. Collaborative City. 3. Tackle digital exclusion and digital literacy. 1 is out of scope. 2 is a very interesting box, as it is something Cardiff Council has already invested in. In a chance encounter during a teacher training session, we mentioned IoT, an unfamiliar term at the time. As a direct result, it is now included in the county's curriculum and resources. It led to our production for schools, Our Connected City, one of the many similar YouTube video presentations. 3. Our project here has been designed with schools in mind and covered more fully in the later section. As mentioned earlier, there are many locally produced videos, some of which have over 250,000 views. 4. This is a difficult nut to crack. Cardiff's diminishing school service does a good job in trying to formalise longer-term external relationships, but it's the task of Sisyphus. We have failed to break down silos, even with contact at ministerial level. 5. We would be interested in offering our services here. Arwain demonstrated open citywide Wi-Fi coverage before Wi-Fi was a common term and before the notion of free and open was popular or even fully understood. It was an alien idea that required explanation. 3 years ago, the project was resurrected to cover LoRa, as previously described, with Arwain / the Things Network. Despite many approaches to Cardiff Council, all calls for assistance were rejected. The simple request to use roof space on prominent council buildings was flatly refused. Should these proposals be valid, we will be keen to take part. Mission 2 Data-Driven Cities 1. Use data more effectively. There is little that our Arwain / the Things Network project can offer here. This image displays our low bandwidth trickle of data as compared to the deluge that will appear, particularly from the automotive and intelligent building sectors. 4. Hold on to the ownership of street furniture, as these items will become valuable assets in the 5G world. 5. As the report says, Cardiff has an intelligent workforce. A good deal of this latent power appears in the various specialist networking groups that exist around the city. 6. Despite the report's claim for open, the tendency back towards centralised control is exhibited here. Central control should not inhibit mashups and the ability to freely play with data. We were happy to help with the ODI Camp 4, held in the Pierhead building in Cardiff in 2017. The significance of the use of the Pierhead building meant that it had Welsh Assembly sponsorship. Mission 2 Data-Driven City to invest and develop skills. 1. I'd hope, as a responsible employer, this is already happening, although we know of capable council employees inhibited from training due to the temporary nature of their employment. 2. Our long-term publishing of exactly this is proven in a video we released in 2013. If this report helps to coagulate the local strengths, then this will be a real achievement. 3. We have gateways at all 3 local universities and 1 college of further education. Had our initiative been accepted by the council, we would have even better coverage, including gateways at all local schools. 4. The skill here is to stimulate local applications. 5. Our project plans to do this and generate our own data in the process. Mission 2 Data-Driven City, make more data openly available. Over the last 3 decades, we have championed open, long before it became mainstream, and when itself was open to fierce opposition from global commercial operations. Our involvement began due to another chance encounter with Dr. Alan Cox, number 2 to Linus Torvalds, and Linux. It was this relationship and the forward-thinking members of senior Cardiff Council staff that culminated in the implementation of CardiffSchools.net. Today, IBM promotes Open, and all the top 500 global sites run Linux. It's therefore a simple case to suggest that the global benefits obtained from Open Linux extend to open data. Open is obviously tempered by suitable anonymization and GDPR adherence. It's really pleasing to see the key phrase such as non-proprietary formats and open in an official document. This follows the Level Playing Fields initiative published by the UK government in 2013. 4. Our open projects are always developed with schools in mind. Our videos appear to be well received, some having over 250,000 views, as mentioned. Tick. We have formally proposed many schools projects. These are open and low cost. We have projects that bring actuators to life, connecting small joysticks to small servos. We have proposed novel gas and particle sensors designed to simply fit inside roadside signs, and a project to demonstrate the cleaner air as the new electric trains are introduced. Currently, we're working with Telram, an open Pi-based video sensor that counts passing walkers, cyclists, cars and heavy vehicles. Develop public trust in the sharing use of data. This is an ongoing development that we can hopefully play an exemplary role in. 2. This is out of scope. 3. We'll be working with other groups to promote interactive data analysis and visualization. 4. We have a practical role here. Tick. 3A. Improve fibre infrastructure in the city. I'm a chartered communications engineer and have personally benefited from the collapse in the cost of communications. My home was once connected via 8 telephone lines, a microwave link and a dedicated leased line back in the days of NTL, and it cost a fortune. I began my own fibre optic design company while at Southampton University 40 years ago, and proudly, my girlfriend's mother was secretary to Charles Kao. I'm therefore reasonably well versed in this area. On the positive side, our local exchange is Whitchurch, the first fibre-enabled exchange in Wales, and fibre is now being installed in the last mile along the back lanes behind our homes. In recent years, I've visited less affluent areas in India and Jordan, and even Bedouin encampments, where fibre installations, of questionable quality, already exist. This raises the question, what barriers have existed that have delayed the fibre rollout in the UK since Charles Cao's initial work in 1966? Reports from an informed member of the Old Welsh Development Agency reported that, due to Cardiff's position in the national conversion from coax to fibre, it was second in the world for the provision of dark fibre. I'm trying to reconfirm this claim at the time of filming. Another of our proposals in 2001 was to employ the dark fibres installed as part of the traffic camera installation programme, which ran into problems when they encountered cross-subsidy issues. These regulations restricted the council from employing fibres it had paid for and installed but could not use for anything other than the original use without being charged commercial rates. This needs to be revised as part of a far more proactive presence in the local telecoms market, but there are huge vested interests here. The report's target of producing transparent reviews of these activities may prove to be very interesting, and any progress a huge benefit in the employment of otherwise dead assets. Mention and plaudit should go to another excellent, sadly rare, local example, Michelson y Feru. This is the small village between Cardiff and Newport where frustrated local residents came together to solve their own battle with BT bandwidth problems. We are pleased to be a small part of their network. Having had sight of some of the finely grained government analysis and mapping of the bandwidth available across Wales, it's a pity that this intelligence is not used more forcefully to operate for the public good. Embed Cardiff Internet Exchange into the region. We have suggested a wider national network based upon the railway infrastructure, with a LoRa gateway at every station, and submitted ideas that suggested that Wales ought to have its own IoT servers based in the IX Exchange in Cardiff. 3. Ensure the rollout of 5G and enhanced mobile coverage. This is a motherhood and apple pie section. The use of the nebulous term 5G provides an impression of a commonly agreed standard and end state as an agreed target, which it is not. There is a good deal of commercial noise and misleading data in this space. Even so, the presence of ubiquitous, ultra-high frequency, wide bandwidth, low latency radio data networks are inevitable. Many 5G pilots are already underway before harnessing the power of the internet. 1. A really interesting block. The Institute of Welsh Affairs have already published a report on innovation. It addresses the societal collaboration and the changes that have to be adopted to achieve the aims of this report. Arwain is specifically mentioned as a case study. This section is contradictory unless the term business is used in its widest sense, not just considering short-term financial payback, but the wider social and environmental gains. 2. The bandwidth distance power graph taken from our Arwain video displays the position of LoRa-based radio networks clearly. The ability to install secure, ad hoc gateways and dynamically cooperate in the connections of tens, if not hundreds of thousands of constrained devices is where our strength lies. 3. Perfect. 4. This could be really appealing to many of the other well-supported groups in Cardiff. Those involved in language development such as JavaScript, Python and R, data manipulation and processing, and artificial intelligence. There are amateur radio groups, Hack Spaces, the Scouting Association, and many more. Mission 4, a mobile and sustainable city, uses the latest technology to keep Cardiff moving. This week we installed the first trial traffic monitoring system. It uses a Raspberry Pi to interrogate a live video stream and image recognition software to classify walkers, cyclists, cars, lorries and buses. The output is combined with all similar devices and displayed on a real-time map. Hopefully we'll be working on this later this year with the University of West of England on a citizen science project to install further units around Cardiff. It niggles slightly that we have to look over the channel to see a more mature manifestation of the system already in operation. 4.2. Living Labs. Our LoRa system is open for this. 4.3. Add value. Interesting. 4.4. Out of scope. 4.5. Out of scope. 4.6. Gamification. Interesting. 4.7. ITS. Out of scope. 4.8. Integrated ticketing. An obvious no-brainer. A mobile and sustainable city. 2. Explore infrastructure requirements for autonomous vehicles. On a personal level, I would like the council to approve a short section of old trolley bus catenary to be reinstated as a tourist attraction in the bay for the Cardiff Bus Restoration Group. What goes around? All of these are out of scope but very interesting. Mission 4A Safety. 3. Develop smarter infrastructure and smarter built environment. 1. A local LoRa network can achieve this. 2. We already have demonstrated real-time environmental monitoring. 3. Interesting. 4. Good. 5. Good. 4. Implement smart energy structure. Next to the forthcoming surge in data from the automotive sector is building management data. Otherwise, our low bandwidth system can be used as part of all of these areas. Mission 5, a healthy city. 1. Using digital technology to support users to retain independence. The production of this video was interrupted as both of my parents, aged 94 and 87, were taken into hospital during its filming. The use of communications and remote care is therefore of keen personal interest. As a group, we contacted local housing associations to inform them of our existence, capability and willingness to help. This completes the final grid and this submission of our feedback regarding Cardiff's first SMART report. We hope that this content provides a context with some of the initiatives of the last 2 decades, and that it displays that the report will fall on fertile ground in Cardiff. One thing the compilation of this report has highlighted is the number of privately funded initiatives that have been generated and run in recent years, and the number of rejected proposals that have been placed in front of the Council during that period. It's hoped that the publication of this report may be the start of galvanising some departments into action and the establishment of some more fruitful partnerships. It'll be interesting to see whether the passion behind the missions translates into useful smart action. The clock is ticking.